Hello, welcome back to the Cubase Fundamentals course. We're in the process of writing our song, Project 1, and last time we extracted a MIDI synth line out of our guitar audio. We created this prologue synth sound. We're going to do some Quantize processing on this today, and it's going to take us a couple of episodes to deal with all the stuff in Quantize. It's quite a big subject. Before we set out on that, let me point you at the Patreon link below. If you enjoy this content and you want to help support my channel, click on that link. That's the best way to do it. I want to change this sound. I've decided I don't like this analog voice. I want soaring instead. Now, soaring is all very well and good, but it doesn't have any velocity sensitivity. So I'm just going to head quickly into the Event tab, click in this Mod Dest box and set my volume to 25. Just means I'm mapping velocity to the volume. That's all straightforward enough, and having muted the guitars and the vocals, this is the beauty of having master subgroups. We can mute entire collections of instruments in one go. Let's just listen to the keyboard line. Okay, that's a much better sound. These two F notes have been interpreted as separate notes, but they're actually not. That's just one note. Let's glue those together. And now here we are ready to go. So we don't have any notes selected. We've seen this before when we quantize the hats line. I'm just going to press Q, quantize the entire part. Now we've just created ourselves a problem. If I control click to zoom in on the last two bars, these two notes here are now overlapping. When this note was quantized, when the first note was quantized, it was moved forwards so that it now overlaps the second note. So here what happens when I play this little section. We're not getting that second note because it's a monophonic synthesizer and the note on trigger is being masked by the first note. Now this is quite common. There are multiple ways that we can solve this problem. We have two options over in this left-hand panel for quantizing the lengths or ends of notes. And you might wonder what the difference is between length and end. I'll use this little cluster of notes to demonstrate. If I select this note here and click Quantize End, it quantizes to the grid line. Quantize length value is currently set to 1/16. And so by quantizing ends, we quantize exactly to whatever quantize value is specified by the grid. Now at the moment, if I click Quantize Length, you're going to get exactly the same result. But that's only an accident. Undo it. Because Quantize Length depends entirely on where the note starts. And this note currently happens to start on the beat. If I move the start of the note, and now click Quantize Length, the end of the note is moved so that the whole note fits exactly inside the quantize grid. Pick it up and move it, and now the end is exactly on the beat. So if you've already quantized the start of the notes to the beat, these two functions are identical. They are both useful, and in context you'll need them both, but quantize end generally tends to be the more common. If you're dealing with a quantized grid, more often than not, quantized end will be your friend. And so we can solve this problem over here with either of those functions. Both quantize end and quantize length will solve our problem. There's our long note. Quantize length fix it. Quantize ends fixes it. But there's another way that we can do it. And unfortunately, this kind of tilts me a bit. It's not all in the same panel. This function is over in the length panel. It seems to me quite loose as to which of the two panels individual features are placed, because the thing that I want to do now is in the lengths panel, and it's delete overlaps mono. I click that button and now move this note. It's been truncated. So what delete overlaps mono does is says any note on the same pitch, make sure it's not overlapping any other note on the same pitch. And that's the easy of the two delete overlaps functions to understand. Delete overlaps poly is a little bit more complicated. Let's zoom into this middle zone again. What I'm going to do is extend the length of F3. Now if I just select these two notes to make sure that this is the only bit of the data that we process and click delete overlaps poly, now that you can see it doesn't care which pitch the notes are on. Anything that overlaps anything else in time, regardless of what the pitch is, will be truncated. Having now deselected those notes, if I click this button again, just look carefully at this F and G over here. Again, the F was slightly overlapping the G and so got truncated. Fixed length isn't really a Quantize feature at all. It basically says set every note to exactly this length. Undo that. And then at the top of the length page, while we're here, we might as well carry on here. Like I say, I treat quantize and length pretty much as one function set. Legato will ensure that there are no gaps in the notes, and it's actually a dynamic feature. Even though there's a button, if I click apply legato, watch for instance that gap there. It's filled it in, it's filled all of the other gaps in, you can see. So the entire thing is now one continuous noise. The apply legato button is something of a red herring because it's actually dynamic. It's actually driven by this scale legato feature up here. It's currently set to 100 and it's a bit clunky this. Watch what happens with the interface the moment I pick this up. It's now snapped to 97% of complete. If I bring it back up to 100, you shouldn't really get a difference of function without having actually done anything in the interface. But this is to prove that the legato is constantly active. If I set legato to 0, there isn't any, and the notes don't join together. But the moment I increase the rate, then you can see all of the notes joining together. What's actually happening when I click apply legato is that the scale legato is being set to 100. We also have an overlap feature where we can make notes overlap by a number of ticks. Remember, 120 ticks is 1/16th note. And there you can see all the notes getting longer. Control click to set it back to 0. Extend to next selected is a little bit weird. I'll show you an example. If I draw a chord and then a couple of notes over here. If I select all of those and then control click, and then with this box selected, apply legato, it extends all of these notes past the nearest legal selectable note. If I untick the box and perform the same operation, it legatos up to the next legal note. So it's predominantly for chords when you want to override what you would ordinarily consider to be the most intuitive next note to go to. So you could have like a long bluff chord, for instance, and then some notes like way off in the distance. Just select one of them, click legato, and it'll extend the bluff chord as far as you want, as far as the note that you've got selected. So it's like an override feature. Soft quantize is a really big deal. In fact, I tend to have soft quantize on more often than not. And in order to have a look at this, we just need to head into the Quantize panel. We're going to spend most of our time here in the next episode, but we do need to see this function down here because this is where soft quantize, which used to be called iterative quantize. I think it might be in the very latest version of Cubase they renamed this feature, because I remember it as being iterative. So it's currently set to 60%. What does that mean? Well, if I zoom really close in on a note, so I'm just going to ensure that when I quantize this note, turn soft quantize off, when I quantize it, it's going to jump to the beat line. Okay? Now turn soft quantize on, it's going to jump 60% of the way there. And then 60% of the way from where it now is. And then 60% of the way from here. And eventually, if you have a look at the start, we go 3, 1, 0. So it did get there finally. It's not one of those situations where you never actually get to the other side. It will finally reach the destination. But soft quantize can absolutely mess you up if you forget it's on. There's all sorts of features where I have macros programmed in Cubase that depend on soft quantize not being on. So it's constantly tripping me up. because it basically like demaths everything. You know, you lose all of your mathematical perfection when soft quantize is on. But it is a really human feature, and you'll tend to find that you use it as often as not. I think that'll do us for today. In the next episode, we'll have a look back at that Quantize panel and have a look at some of the more advanced features available to us. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit like, and I'll see you for the next episode. Thanks a lot.